with the transition and changes due to the global crisis. Students are now studying through blended learning from traditional to new and innovative methods. In our documentary video, we will tackle what flexible learning means. Surely, technological and digital teaching is in demand today, and we can see it in the current system and means of learning.
The 21st century is truly changing us, from how we live to how we learn. We are expanding our knowledge and capabilities to prepare our youth for their first step in the global arena. Flexible or blended learning is another way or method of learning wherein students have the freedom to choose how they learn.
There's general consensus that blended learning has three main components. Face-to-face active learning activities facilitated by an educator, digital learning objects, often bite-sized chunks of information, and structured independent study time guided by the face-to-face teaching experience.
This flexible or blended learning is done mostly in virtual space and delivered by the use of technology. Today, we are at the stage of a pandemic where the classes are held via online setup.
Magandahan naman tayo. Ayan. So, I'm glad and excited that you are here for today's session.
For the safety of the students and teachers against the viruses. Also, even teachers are adjusting to teaching using the online setup because they are most of them are accustomed to the classroom setup.
Sarili ko na may mga munting bagay na naibabahagi ko sa mga mag-aaral.
Bagamat mahirap para sa amin, kailangan namin gawin ito kasi dito nakasalalay yung kinabukasan ng mga kabataan.
Just like what Bonk and Gray have quoted, we live in a world in which digital technologies are increasingly becoming an integral part of our day-to-day lives. As of today, we are using technology to make our lives more comfortable, especially in terms of communication. We are utilizing digital and technological perspectives to improve the system of education through flexible and blended learning.
Just focus on three key areas: development of digital and active learning course content, guiding the learning experience of individual learners, and customizing material wherever possible to strengthen the learning experience. And, as with all educational methods, appropriate assessment.
The following areas are the essential scope, band focus, instructional design, deposition, explorations, learner outcomes, comparisons, technology, and intersection. First, instructional design should be based on the curriculum and what method of teaching will be used. In this way, educators can improve and calibrate their strategies and implementation as effective teachers. Second, depositions. Educators should prepare and plan what references they want and will use, the attitude they will execute, and the total expectations in practicing blended learning.
Third, exploration. Both the educators and learners will define what are their roles and what are the challenges they can encounter during the said new system of learning. Next one is the learning outcomes. Just like in the end of every classes, the outcomes of the learners are very essential not only in making grades, but it will also become an evidence so we can know if the learners are truly learned or they didn't. Next one is the comparison. Here, we can compare and contrast the differences between the blended and online classes and the real-world classes, or known as the face-to-face learning. Next one is technology. Both the educators and learners will define and know what are the technologies they need to execute the new system of learning. And the last one is the interaction. It only talks about the interaction between the educators and learners.
Synchronous learning, asynchronous learning, and a modular learning.
Synchronous learning happens in real time and can be delivered in an in-person or online format. When learning is synchronous, students and professors are engaged in course content at the same time. This engagement allows for easy give and take discussion, quick answers to questions, and a learning environment that can be highly social. Synchronous learning is familiar to both professors and students because traditional in-person classes meet synchronously.
Synchronous learning is every week online meeting, interaction between teacher and student, done via virtual classroom and imitated feedback.
On the other hand, asynchronous delivery, where professors generate online content in advance and students engage with it on their own schedules, has its own pros and cons. Where synchronous delivery supports a high degree of student engagement, asynchronous delivery supports individualized learning. Students can take the time they each need to grasp and master concepts and skills because they don't have to try to keep up with real-time class delivery.
Asynchronous learning is twice a month online meeting, long duration of activity or outputs, flexible time for the working student, and most of the time students self-learning.
Learning through printed modules, which may be delivered to the learner's residence or claimed at his school gate upon requested. Learners' submission of requirements may be done online or face-to-face by their parents or guardians, provided that healthcare guidelines are properly observed.
Modular learning is printed of materials, remote of learning, output basis, and good for those who lack of money for internet and device.
Marks the beginning of the school year's second quarter. The Education Department has decided it will also be the first day of the planned pilot run for in-person classes. In a Senate Basic Education panel hearing, the DepEd said the pilot will run until end of January next year. The agency targets to reopen more schools by March.
Blended learning. First, combine face-to-face and online format for content delivery. Second, self-paced work possible due to combination of formats. Third, location of teacher and student flexible during school hours. Fourth, course material may be more relevant to real events. Greater ease for updating of materials. Fifth, instruction radius for work to small group. 6. In-person connection to teachers and other students.
Online learning. First, may or may not have visual communication with instructors. Second, synchronous sessions may be possible at least part of the time. Third, students can set schedule for learning possible to form study groups online to supplement learning. And last, all content online, contemporary and relevant material, not limited by curriculum updates.
In face-to-face learning, face-to-face contact with teacher and other students 100% of the time may have less teacher contact depending on the size of class and ability to talk to teacher. Second, it may be more teacher-centered instruction than student-centered instruction, may or may not include use of technology. The schedule is not flexible for the most part. Overcrowded classroom may be a reality, resulting in less teacher time per student. And last, absences may create more of a problem depending on the organizational strategies of the teacher and time to review missed work.
In this pandemic, many has changed, especially when it comes to education. Many of us are still adjusting and adapting a blended and flexible learning setup. We encounter difficulties and challenges even we are online. Not all the teachers and students have their own gadgets as a main material that we need. Some of us don't afford to have internet connection and signals. We have to accept that as of now, we can't have face-to-face classes because of the virus. But it can stop us to continue our education and pursue our dreams even if we don't have good resources of materials and tools to help us in learning. It can be a lifetime lesson and see that technology is important to us.